Good morning. How dare you talk about people like this? When I was young, in the 70s, we couldn't afford a family. Some of the people that lived in London, if they could, with their job, they moved out of London because they couldn't afford to live in London. Not only that, you couldn't get a council place either. So my husband worked all day and did overtime. I worked all day. And in those days, if you got pregnant, you could only work part-time. You want to get in the real world, mate. I know it's hard for young people now. I agree with that side of it. It was then. So we couldn't have a family. And nobody cared about us. So in those days, people were hard. And they are hard today. I've said they should halve the price of housing. But no, the people in this country are so bloody selfish and letting people, thousands of people in, because they didn't want to pay the money for the job for people in those days, and they still don't today, is a scandal. The politicians are a disgrace. My husband won't vote. I'm not voting. My other friends aren't voting. My other friend said she worked all the hours. She had a family. She struggled. She was a generation later than us. But unfortunately, when it got to us, that's when they started putting prices up on property, and the estate agents and the government couldn't have cared less about anybody, like now.
But Susan, I'm not saying that earlier generations didn't have challenges. Of course they did. Of course you struggled. Of course you had to make sacrifices. But I do think it was easier for boomers than it is for today's young people.
It wasn't easier. You don't realise. They only tell you the good bits.